Welcome everyone, I'm Kingly Valence, and thanks for watching this fun Spore video. Today, we are going through the history of Space Stage Speedrun World Records. Space Stage speedruns are the most unique compared to the other stages in Spore. Whereas in the first 4 stages are completed by filling the progress bar, in Space Stage, our goal for the speedrun is to reach a destination, which is the galactic core at the center of the galaxy. There is a separate, much longer speedrun that does fill the Space Stage progress bar as well. However, for this video, we will focus on runs that attempt to reach the galactic core as fast as possible. Space Stage speedrunning is also uniquely difficult, because Space Stage isn't nearly as straightforward as the first 4 stages, as there's nothing really telling us how to reach the galactic core, other than some subtle hints that we should just try to get there. The Space Stage speedrun requires specific routing and strategy going into the stage already planned out, but this has the benefit of making Space Stage the least dependent on random factors, and rewards game knowledge and execution of strategy more. Here, we will see the development of Space Stage speedrun strategies, and how speedrunners were able to reach the galactic core in less than 4 minutes. The very first speedrun of Spore that completes Space Stage I can find footage for is a full game speedrun that completes the entire game starting from Cell Stage and reaching the center of the galaxy in just under 1 hour and 20 minutes by Roro. This run took place in July 2015. And the Space Stage portion of the run we will be taking a look at was completed in 33 minutes and 29 seconds. Roro already had a very solid strategy for reaching the galactic core in this run. Roro first earns the Frequent Flyer 3 badge during the first mission to scan the destroyed cities, then completes 10 missions for the Missionista 2 badge to unlock the medium energy storage, energy packs, and repair packs. And since this is a full game run, Roro uses the strategy to become a zealot when reaching Space Stage to earn the Fanatical Frenzy, which they use on the home planet of another empire. With this planet under Roro's control, they begin selling these newly acquired buildings to afford all the equipment they just unlocked and head to the galactic core. And unfortunately, hitting a dead end on the way to the center of the galaxy, Roro regrouped with additional energy and repair packs and made a second push to the galactic core, reaching the cutscene in just over 30 minutes after entering Space Stage. Roro further optimized the speedrun with a second full game run in late September 2015, completing Spore in under an hour. The Space Stage portion this time was completed in 16 minutes and 22 seconds, saving half the time from their previous Space Stage run. This time, Roro optimizes the Space Stage route considerably. In this run, Roro still unlocks the Frequent Flyer 3 badge during the first mission, but only completes 5 missions to unlock the Missionista 1 badge. Unlocking the Missionista 1 badge only unlocks the small energy storage and energy packs. The smaller energy storage holds less energy at a time in the ship's reserves, and there are no repair packs this time. Roro once again uses the Fanatical Frenzy and sells enough buildings to buy the Interstellar Drive 3, small energy storage, energy packs, and heads towards the center of the galaxy. On the way to the Grox, Roro buys additional energy packs and refuels along the way. After reaching the Grox and not hitting any dead ends this time, Roro reaches the galactic core in record time. The full game run and Space Stage routes are now established, and this run would stand as the world record for the next year. In spring 2016, I started speedrunning Spore, but mostly focused on individual level speedruns, where we would just complete one stage at a time. A rule was quickly established where individual level speedruns would not have access to any consequence traits earned from previous stages. Since individual level speedruns did not play the previous stage, they shouldn't be able to receive the benefits from those stages. Having consequence traits would now be exclusive to the full game speedruns that played every stage continuously. However, this created a challenge for Space Stage individual level speedruns. In the full game run, the route depended entirely on having the Fanatical Frenzy and selling buildings for enough money to reach the galactic core. In just Space Stage runs, we need to find another method to make money quickly. In Spore, all Space Stage games share the same galaxy, so anything done in one Space Stage playthrough will then be present in another space game. Knowing that Space Stage saves can interact with each other gave me an idea for the Space Stage individual level. I used another space save to collect spice and drop it off where I knew the Space Stage speedrun would find it. And on July 6, 2016, I completed the first speedrun of Space Stage as an individual level without Fanatical Frenzy in 12 minutes and 6 seconds. But because of this cross-game contamination benefiting the speedrun, we established the New Game Plus category, meaning we are still starting a new game, plus assistance from previously saved space games. This way, we could have 2 categories, where Space Stage New Game Plus could be optimized as much as possible with help from previous space games, and Space Stage Standard, which wouldn't have help from previous saves, and would be played as if Spore was loaded up for the first time, but the Standard category was still empty for now. The Space Stage New Game Plus run still follows the full game strategy very closely. During the run, we unlock Frequent Flyer 3 for Interstellar Drive 3, complete Missionista 1 to unlock the small energy storage and energy packs, then drive through the Grox to reach the Galactic Core. The only real difference was saving a bit of time selling the spice instead of needing to use the Fanatical Frenzy and selling the buildings. I would then go on to improve the New Game Plus category using the same route but getting faster at the mechanics, getting a 10 minute and 38 second time a few days later, and improving the run again down to 9 minutes and 2 seconds by the end of July 2016. Then a couple of months later, the route completely changed with the introduction of using wormholes. Wormholes are rare galactic formations in the galaxy that, when entered, will transport our ship to another wormhole somewhere else in the galaxy. The wormholes themselves are always in the same location for everyone, however their connections to each other are randomized per galaxy of Spore. So to find a useful wormhole connection, a lot of trial and error needs to be done to route a path from our home planet to get us closer to the center of the galaxy. The first run to implement using wormholes saved almost 3 minutes over the previous record by finding a wormhole that was close to our home planet and that exits already in Grox territory. Traveling between wormholes requires the wormhole key, which is very expensive, but thankfully with the extra spice in the New Game Plus category, we can afford it. And this run reaches the Galactic Core using wormholes in 6 minutes and 19 seconds. And by the end of 2016, I improved the time down to 5 minutes and 53 seconds using the same wormhole. I mentioned that wormhole connections are different per galaxy. The galaxy files for Spore are located in Windows roaming files. This galaxy file can then be transferred to another computer, and that computer would then also have the same wormhole connections along with any other saved games in that galaxy. Or if we delete this galaxy file, an entirely new galaxy will be generated with new randomized wormhole connections. Trying to find an even better wormhole connection than before, a second improved wormhole route was found, which brought the time down to 5 minutes and 15 seconds in early March 2017, for only a couple weeks later to make one final wormhole route improvement, bringing the time down to 4 minutes and 47 seconds. This third and newest wormhole connection gives the closest viable exit to reach the center of the galaxy. From here, we only need a few jumps to reach the Galactic Core. Until now, we've still been essentially following the same badge and equipment strategy as before in the full game route, but saving travel time with the wormholes. But now with this wormhole bringing us so close to the Galactic Core, we don't need nearly as much energy storage on our spaceship. We've been completing the Missionista 1 badge to unlock the small energy storage and energy packs. However, with us so close, I found we only need just a couple of energy packs to reach the Galactic Core safely. And unlocking the energy packs without the small energy storage can be done much faster than from Missionista 1. Energy packs on their own can be unlocked through the Trader 1 badge, which is unlocked by establishing 2 trade routes, much faster than completing 5 missions. Thanks to the wormhole, this is the first major change in what badges and equipment we are unlocking for the Space Stage speedrun. This energy pack only route in June 2017 brought the time down to 4 minutes and 20 seconds. However, it turns out that this wormhole connection brings us so close to the Galactic Core, and after counting the absolute minimum jumps needed to reach the center of the galaxy, we can go from our home system to the wormhole, and from the wormhole exit to the Galactic Core in less than 20 total jumps. This is an important discovery, because our spaceship, even with the most basic energy storage, hold enough energy for 20 jumps, meaning we can reach the center of the galaxy without needing to buy any energy packs either. All we have to do is earn the Frequent Flyer 3 badge, pick up and sell the extra spice, buy the Interstellar Drive 2 and Wormhole key, then head straight for the Galactic Core. And in August 2017, we reached the Galactic Core in 3 minutes and 37 seconds, to be improved again a year later using the same strategy down to 3 minutes and 23 seconds. In late 2017, it was discovered that previously saved space games could help out not only future space stage speedruns, but also help future speedruns in tribal and civilization stage as well, by using planet sculpting tools on the home planet of a future speedrun. Because of this cross-game, cross-stage contamination now being possible, and much better understood by 2018, the rule was updated so that any cross-stage assistance is now allowed in New Game Plus, meaning all the stages' New Game Plus categories now had access to consequence traits. And 2 consequence traits are very beneficial for the Space Stage speedrun. First is the Power Monger ability from being carnivore out of Cell Stage. This increases our spaceship's energy reserves by 50%, giving our basic energy storage 30 total jumps. Reaching the galactic core is possible with the normal 20 jumps, but this makes the drive a lot easier. And the second consequence trait is the Speed Demon ability for being adaptable in Creature Stage. This ability increases our spaceship's speed by 50% and will have a significant impact on the speedrun. With these abilities, this brings us to the current world record for the New Game Plus category, reaching the galactic core in 2 minutes and 54 seconds. Most of the time spent in this run is reaching Frequent Flyer 3 to unlock the Wormhole key. Then it's just a quick drive through the Grox into the galactic core. Next we have the history of the standard space stage individual level speedrun. This category does not allow for any of the extra cross-save assistance, and this category had multiple changes in the record holder as well. It took until October 2017 to complete the first submission for this category, but we are back to the same question we had when we started. How are we going to make enough money to reach the galactic core without extra spice or fanatical frenzy? We definitely won't be able to afford the wormhole key, so we'll have to return to the full game route, but thankfully this route and path to the center of the galaxy are well established. But now we need to work on our budget management. First, earn the Frequent Flyer 3 and Missionista 1 badges, where this would unlock us the Interstellar Drive 3, small energy storage, and energy packs. We will make sure to buy everything from other empires to save money. Our empire will always sell everything we have unlocked, but will always be the most expensive. Other empires will only sell a small select list of items based on their archetype, but they will sell those items at a large discount compared to our empire. And if we can find the right empires that sell everything we need, this will save us a lot of money. But even buying everything from other empires will still cost us 225,000 Spore bucks for the interstellar drives, 75,000 for the small energy storage, and we need to buy 15 energy packs for 75,000, and about 23,000 Spore bucks on refueling along the way. Subtract out the 100,000 Spore bucks we start with in Space Stage, and this gives us a total bill of just under 300,000 Spore bucks to collect. The main source of income for this run will be to collect artifacts from nearby stars and sell them to make enough money. The artifacts are always located in the same star systems per galaxy file, similar to how the wormhole connections are generated as well, except the artifacts themselves are randomized each time the star system is reached. It's important to know that no space stage saves are allowed to have been made in this galaxy when running this category. That makes sure there is no influence from other saved games going on, and keeps the run valid for the standard space stage individual level speedrun. So when we finish or need to reset the speedrun and we quit back to the main menu without saving, Spore still thinks no space games had ever occurred. This gives us essentially a brand new galaxy to use each speedrun attempt, and will also keep the artifacts we encounter still random. So during each speedrun attempt, we are hoping for good luck to find some valuable artifacts. This speedrun was really lucky to find an ancient urn of the Spurg artifact, as this artifact sells for 225,000 Spore bucks on its own. And with 2 other artifacts collected, that was enough to buy all the equipment we need and drive to the center of the galaxy, setting the benchmark time of 8 minutes and 31 seconds. Then on July 15th, 2018, Savage Brick beat the time and got a new world record. Savage Brick had done something never seen before in space stage speedrunning, which was reaching the center of the galaxy after only unlocking Frequent Flyer 2. So far, all other runs completed the 400 jumps necessary during the first mission to earn Frequent Flyer 3. This was to unlock either the Interstellar Drive 3 to fly to the core, or to unlock the Wormhole key to warp to the core. But only needing to complete 150 jumps to unlock Frequent Flyer 2 saves a lot of time during the first tutorial mission. And with only Interstellar Drive 2 equipped, Savage Brick showed it was possible to fly to the galactic core without needing Interstellar Drive 3. The rest of the run follows the normal route, including unlocking Missionista 1 for the small energy storage and energy packs. But only buying 10 energy packs this time, and without needing to buy the Interstellar Drive 3, this saves 175,000 Spore bucks off the bill. This now requires a lot less luck in getting good artifacts to buy everything we need. When driving to the core, the jump range is reduced only having Interstellar Drive 2 compared to 3, which may slow the ship down slightly, but this is more than made up for in not needing to jump back and forth for as long. And once we reach the Grox territory, the jump range gets reduced down to Interstellar Drive 1 range anyway, so there's not too much of a disadvantage to only have Interstellar Drive 2 as long as the ship can reach the galactic core at all. Savage Brick then reaches the galactic core in 8 minutes and 23 seconds, a new world record. Only needing Interstellar Drive 2 to reach the core is a lot better than needing Interstellar Drive 3, so let's take a quick look at how the galaxy is laid out to find out where it can be used. The Spore Galaxy is a spiral with 5 arms. To help distinguish the arms, I came up with a numbering system. When loading up Spore and viewing the galaxy in the main menu, the galaxy looks like this, and for context, Earth is located right here in everyone's galaxy. Since Earth is a constant for everyone, I numbered this arm number 1. To help view the galaxy more clearly, we can use this really cool interactive star map, which is linked in the description. And here is Earth's location again on arm number 1. This is the arm used in the 8 minutes and 31 second run, and at the time, it appeared this arm needed Interstellar Drive 3 to reach the galactic core. However, after a lot more routing in the galaxy, found it actually was possible to reach the galactic core with only Interstellar Drive 2, but following these paths, both Interstellar Drives 2 and 3 need a fairly indirect path to reach the core. However, Savage Brick's 823 run uses the arm to the left, arm number 2. And this path to the core is much more direct and can reach the center of the galaxy much easier with Interstellar Drive 2. The arm numbering continues counterclockwise, so this is arm 3, 4, and 5. Turns out arm number 5 can also reach the core with Interstellar Drive 2, but also needs to take a very indirect path to reach it. And arm number 3 can also reach with a bit of an indirect path as well. However, arm number 4 cannot reach the galactic core with only Interstellar Drive 2. And here are all the paths to the center of the galaxy using only Interstellar Drive 2. Recognizing that arm 2 is by far the best arm to start a space stage run from, I completed a run from that arm as well, only unlocking Frequent Flyer 2, and while following the rest of the route as normal, brought the time down to 6 minutes and 37 seconds. However, starting from this arm was even better than we initially thought, as we realized just how much travel distance was saved using this path. With the experience from the New Game Plus routing, I wondered if it was possible to reach the core from arm number 2 without the small energy storage. If we could, we wouldn't need to complete the 5 missions for the Missionista 1 badge anymore, and instead only needed the 2 trade routes for the Trader 1 badge to unlock energy packs by themselves. And it turns out, starting on arm 2, it was completely possible with just 15 energy packs to reach the galactic core with only the most basic energy storage. On top of saving time not needing to do the extra missions, since we are saving so much money not needing to buy the Interstellar Drive 3 or small energy storage anymore, we no longer need to spend time collecting an artifact either. When starting from Space Stage in the main menu, our home planet starts out with a little bit of bonus red spice for free. It's interesting that when starting from Civilization Stage in a full game speedrun, Spore doesn't give this starting spice. Maxis must have decided to give Wanderers a bit of help to start Space Stage. We get 1 bonus red spice per city on our home planet when starting directly from Space Stage. Normally, we think of there always being 10 cities on our home planet, which is true when coming from Civilization Stage, but this isn't always the case when starting Space Stage from the main menu. There can be as few as 7 starting cities on our home planet. The home planet layout will determine the number of starting cities in this case. There are 15 different home planet layouts in Spore, and these different layouts give different amounts of starting cities according to this table. And surprisingly, only 6 of these planet layouts give 10 starting cities. But using one of these planets with 10 cities will then give us the 10 starting bonus spice. 1 spice will always be generated in the time it takes to reach Frequent Flyer 2, so we can have up to 11 red bonus spice for the speedrun. Even though red spice doesn't sell for too much, we don't need that much money to buy all the equipment we need. After more careful routing, we now only need the Interstellar Drive 2 for 75,000 Spore bucks, a minimum of 11 energy packs for 55,000, and refueling for 14,000 Spore bucks to reach the galactic core. Since we start with 100,000 Spore bucks, we only need to collect 44,000 Spore bucks. We get 11 spice from our red spice bonus, so each spice only needs to sell for at least 4,000 Spore bucks each. To get the best price, we need to sell our spice at a planet that generates a spice color other than red. If the planet generates red spice, they will always buy red for the minimum price, which is too low. How the remaining spice prices are determined is there will be 2 more colors randomly selected that sell for the minimum, and the remaining 3 colors will sell for these market prices, giving red a 3 out of 5 chance to not be sold for the minimum, then a 9 out of 10 chance for being sold for enough to buy everything we need, giving a 54% chance we will be able to sell our starting spice for enough money to reach the galactic core. If we can't sell the spice for enough, we will have to reset and try again. But this is now the only random factor that goes into this speedrun. Everything else is up to our ability to execute the run as fast as possible. With this new strategy, I completed a new run in 5 minutes and 11 seconds. Savage Brick then optimizes the route by needing to talk to fewer empires during the run to get a 4 minute and 57 second time, the first run to reach the sub 5 minutes for this category. And then there was some great back and forth, as I came back with a 4 minute and 53 second time, and Savage Brick comes back quickly with a great 4 minutes and 33 second time, then for myself to come back with 4 minutes and 24 seconds. This is where the record stood for a couple years until Savage Brick once again claimed a new world record, finding an even slightly closer starting position to the center of the galaxy on arm number 2, and performing the speedrun more optimally. There are thousands of starting locations in the Spore galaxy, but Spore will only give new starting locations from a minimum distance from the galactic core, and they must be on a yellow star. Still on arm number 2, we went from having this starting location to the new location Savage Brick found over here. This new starting location saved about 4 jumps worth of travel distance. Updating the star map for arm number 2 now looks like this to reach the galactic core. Savage Brick claimed a new world record from this new starting location, completing space stage in 4 minutes and 9 seconds. Then I improved the time once more, getting the first sub 4 minute run in 3 minutes and 56 seconds, and that is where the category stands today. And thanks to all of this individual level route improvement, the full game speedrun benefited a lot from this research. The full game route for Space Stage up until July 2018 still used the Fanatical Frenzy along with getting Missionista 1 for the small energy storage. However, thanks to our research to find both the new starting location and no longer needing Missionista 1, the full game speedrun route no longer depended on getting Fanatical Frenzy, and the route is now very similar to the individual level once the route had begun using arm number 2 in July 2018. There are a couple differences for the full game, however. Because the full game does not get the starting bonus spice when entering Space Stage, the full game still needs to collect 1 artifact for Spore Bucks. And thanks to all the optimization and practice from the individual level runs, since we can reach the core with a minimum of 44,000 Spore Bucks, that allows us to only need to find 1 artifact of 45,000 Spore Bucks to afford the Interstellar Drive 2, 11 energy packs, and 2 refills. There are 130 different artifacts in Spore, and while we know where they will appear, the actual artifact that we pick up is still random. There are only 12 artifacts that sell for less than 45,000 Spore Bucks, so we have a 90.8% chance of getting an artifact that sells for enough money the first time. If we get unlucky, we'd have to pick up a second artifact, costing a lot of time. But just collecting 1 artifact can take an extra 20 to 30 seconds that the individual level route doesn't have to do. However, this time can be reclaimed because the full game route no longer depends on having Fanatical Frenzy. This allows us to become adaptable in Creature Stage, which is not only faster than being aggressive in Creature Stage, but also gives us the Speed Demon ability in Space Stage, which again makes our spaceship travel 50% faster. Side by side, following the same path with the faster spaceship also saves about 20 to 30 seconds. So the Space Stage time during the full game is very similar to the individual level, even with slightly different routes. And the current fastest Space Stage time completed during a full game is by Savage Brick in 4 minutes and 7 seconds. And that's the history of Space Stage speedrunning in Spore. 3 distinct methods to complete Space Stage with significantly different routes, and a solid history of routing, optimizing, and improving the best times. Spore speedrunning, and especially Space Stage speedrunning, is near and dear to me, so thank you so much for watching this complete history of Space Stage speedrunning. I'm Kingly Valence, and I'll see you next time.